Hello guys, welcome to this tutorial. My name is JB and from PC Smart Guys. Today I'm going to show you how I configured BGInfo to work with MDT 2012 on a 32-bit operating system. So pretty much the overview is we're just going to configure BGInfo so that you will see the different backgrounds changing through the task sequence as we deploy our image. And normally if you really don't use BGInfo, it's just the default Microsoft background that you'll see. And if you're trying to brand your own image or customize a certain wallpaper for your company or your lab, then this video will be helpful for you. I'm not going to show you how to configure MDT. I'm just going to walk you through the steps of how I actually got BGInfo to work properly without any issues or whatever. Took me about, I'd say maybe 2 days to actually figure it out with a lot of testing and a lot of lab work. And there's different ways you can actually do this, but this is the way that worked best for me. So if you have any concerns or questions toward it, just shoot me an email or just post a comment after this link or this video, and I'll be happy to respond. Okay, if there's another way that you did it, I would be really interested also to learn, because it's a learning environment and we all can learn from each other. So pretty much going back to everything, I'm just going to show you how to design the background wallpapers. We're going to edit the MDT task sequence and update it, and when we're finished, we're going to test and verify the deployment process. So I'll minimize this real quick, and I'm going to log into my DC. So as you can see here, I'm on my domain controller, and I already have MDT configured on a separate server virtually running. There is a virtual machine prepped and ready. So once we configure everything, right, we will go ahead and run this on the DC to make sure. Pretty much we're going to test to see if our wallpaper is actually pulling and if it's working. So minimize this real quick and minimize that. So let's go ahead and log into my MDT. Okay, so this is up and running. And alright, so this is my MDT. It's already configured. I have my deployment shares already been built previously, and WDS is actually functioning. So pretty much like the entire environment that you will need for any regular deployment, I have mine already configured. So the best practice really is to configure everything how you want it, prep it, and then when you're ready to deploy your image, you could customize BGInfo and brand it for your own company or organization. So few things I want to walk you through. Make sure you have at least a domain controller. Obviously, you're going to need one. And you need to have a deployment share, meaning you need to have MDT running on some type of server, however you configured it, right? So the first thing I normally do is just verify that your deployment share is working. So let's go to MDT real quick. This is where all my deployment shares are located. And I have a few of them in different locations just for testing purposes. The one that we're working in today is going to be the black belt. This is the latest one that I've actually tested, and it's working. So normally with MDT 12, MDT 2012, there's a new feature I noticed that BGInfo comes pre-installed inside of the tools x86. So you actually don't need to go in and download it from the website. It's actually pre-built. It's pretty neat, right? So if you take a look at it inside the tools x86 folder, you will see that BGInfo is already there. It's right here. Okay, and go ahead and run it. So this is what BGInfo will look like basically, right? And when you're configuring it for the first time, if it's never pre-installed, you will have all type of rules and stuff set inside the field area of what you want it to be displayed when you're deploying your image. So pretty much you want to set this up to how you want it, right? And then once it's configured and this is how you want it, you have to do a save as. Once you do a save as, you want to save this file as a .bgi file. Okay, so just remember that. And that's the configuration files that we're going to use. So what I like to do, right, you can use one configuration file pretty much and different backgrounds. Because if there's nothing inside of the BGInfo that's being changed, you can actually do it. But for me, I like to keep it separate. So I created 6 different configuration files in here, which it comes pre-installed anyway. As you can see, step 1 all the way through step 6. And they each call separate functions. So step 1 is going to call background 1. Step 2 will call background 2. Step 3 will call background 3. And all the way until you get to number 6. Okay? So you want to save that actually inside of the x86 folder where you're working once you configure it. Now, I'm going to just show you how my configurations actually look for BGInfo real quick. So let's take a look at this one, right? This is already configured. Computer name, manufacturer, model, processor, RAM, NIC, MAC, and the IP address. That's really all the information that I really wanted to display when making my image. You can add more, you could add less. It's up to you. Like I said, you're branding this for your own specifications. So you could customize it however you want. Just bear in mind that wherever you put this on the screen, you want to make sure there's free space on your background. Could be down here, could be up here, you know, whatever. And what I mean by that is a position. So when you configure your BGInfo, you have 9 different areas that you can actually have the information displayed right on the computer. Top right, bottom right, center middle, high, low, whichever. Just choose a spot where once it's deployed, you can actually read the information. And please set it up so if it's a black background, you have BGInfo displaying like a light, you know, different font colors so you can actually read it. I've actually seen one of my friend, he had a black background with black writing. And then he called me up. He was like, "Hey man, this is not working. I can't see anything. The background shows, but BGInfo doesn't show." And it was funny. It took a while to figure it out. And I called him and I looked over. The font was black, displaying on a black background. So it happens. Sometimes you're so busy working you don't even realize what's going on. Okay. So cancel that. So like I said, in here, the font, I'm going to be working with a black background. This is not the background for your wallpaper. This is a background for BGInfo. So if there's not a wallpaper assigned, you will see a blue background. So if you're ever working and you're wondering why you're only seeing a blue background, that's because your wallpaper is not configured properly to function or to actually work with BGInfo. Okay, so the font, Tomaha, white. I select the white font and I just want the host to be highlighted in yellow. You can make it bold, you can center it however you want. Just make sure that everything is working properly. See, you could, it's just like a Word document. Set it up however you want. Now let's talk about some custom fields, because you probably noticed that manufacturer model is not a part of the regular default fields in here, right? They're not. So what I did, I created some custom fields onto here, and serial number, model, and manufacturer, I did a WMI query, and I selected this function to be actually pulled from the machine. So once BGInfo goes in, it runs a script and say, hey, I need the serial number from the BIOS so I could display it. So that's pretty much what it's doing. Hey, I need the model. Hey, give me the manufacturer. Who makes this? Is it Dell, HP, Acer, Vio, whoever. As system administrator or as system engineers, when you're building, these information is vital, especially MAC address, IP, serial number, model. We run into problems all the time. And this is good because if you're deploying across a big network, you might not be there physically all the time to see. But if you have administrators out there that's helping you, or other users, if you're doing like the deployment with them, it's good information for you to see while it's deploying. You could say, hey, this machine is an HP serial number, this. The image is not pulling correctly. So then when you can troubleshooting or you have to configure, it's easier for you to configure because you know exactly what machine is not functioning properly, right? So I added a serial number, manufacturer, and a model. So once you add those, you go in custom one. Let me go back and show you how I did this. Actually, you could go in and you could just do new the identifier, name it whatever you want. I say serial number, WMI query. You would hit browse, and once you hit browse, it's gonna pull up the class and the property. Under the class, there's like so many things you can actually pull from the BIOS, from the computer, and generate it. And once you do that, it will give you a property. Once you select a class, it'll give you a property over here. I've already selected mine, so mine is the serial number. It's coming from the BIOS. Okay, and that's how I got all three defined fields. You select them however you want it, what you want to be displayed, right? And you click apply. So for instance, if we do a preview, right, this is what it will look like. See that? IP, MAC, computer name, whatever. That's what's going to be pulled while I'm doing my information. So this is what I was showing you. Like when you configure it, make sure that you have enough space in this area. You're going to display right here, up here, you want to have enough space there so the information you can actually see. Like for mine, like you could barely see the computer name, model, processor. Okay. All right. So I chose the test to cancel. So once you do the first one and you know it's working for you, however you want it, right? You can actually configure this and then just copy maybe 4 more, 5 more, how many sequences you want to go, and just configure it. Now, the background, the wallpaper is right here. And I've noticed, I've tested a few different ways. You could do the percentage, deploy root / tools x86. That didn't really work too well for me, to be honest with you. I tried it many occasions and I had issues. So what I noticed that actually worked was using the full network path for my background, and that worked flawlessly. Like, I was happy, extremely happy, right? So say we configured all our BGInfo.bgi configuration, right? They have to be configuration file, right? So we have all of those set from step 1 all the way through step 6. And you could have less, you could have more. For me, I broke it down into 6 major sequence during my computer deployment. Initialization, validation, injecting drivers, scripts, installing Windows, and so forth. So you could name it, rename it however you want. Now we need to configure the background, right? So this is what I normally do. I go online, right? And I go to Google. And just Google, say, Windows wallpaper HD. Okay. And select images. You will see a whole bunch. You could choose whichever one you want. Okay. There's a lot over there on this site. I mean, it's up to you. Happy face, Windows 7, whatever. It's up to you. Just choose a background that you like and use it. Like, I'm using this one, and you will see it once we start to deploy. You could use whichever one you want. It's up to you. I mean, just search for a good background, create one. It's up to you, just whatever you need. All right, so normally you go in, say I decide to use this ugly Windows 7 one or whatever. You save it to your desktop, right? I didn't mean to go in here. So save it to your desktop, like for instance, this one. You save it to your desktop, and you know it's free from other additional stuff, and you want to configure this or set it up however you want it. Okay, so let's go ahead and I'm going to show you how I normally configure mine. All right, so the easiest way I've noticed to configure my background to work, let me go back into this real quick. All right, so normally what I do, I open a PowerPoint, right? And the image, you just drag it into a PowerPoint presentation, whatever. Create the file that you want for the background, and then you can save it. So let me show you real quick. Okay, so let's do a new presentation real quick. And say for instance, we want to do test image for MDT, right? Apologize for the stuff earlier. So let's say we're going to configure our first background. Call it test image and whatever you want. Whatever you want to add, right? And this PowerPoint, we could just turn it into a picture. So it's real easy. You could just go ahead and say, go online, maybe to, earlier we went to wallpaper. And let's select something fun. How does this look? I like color. Okay, so we're gonna save this as, put it on my desktop actually. So, okay. So now this is the image, like I was saying, that you want to work with, right? And you're gonna customize the image however you want it. Okay. So we customize everything. This is just an example showing you, right? So say you created your wallpaper and it's your test image, however you want. You know, you're happy with this image for MDT, whatever you want. You're happy. This is what you want to be your background. BGInfo is going to be displayed down here in the middle, whatever, wherever you want to choose it. Okay, this is your wallpaper. What I like to do, you can select all in here, right? And inside of PowerPoint, you could do save as a picture. And the format, you want to make sure it's a BMP format. Okay, that's the only format BGInfo is going to read for the wallpaper. So save it as a BMP, save you a lot of problems later. You don't have to be worried about one step less for troubleshooting, because you won't even be able to see it, because if you choose a JPEG, PNG, GIF, whatever picture format, BGInfo won't read it. It's designed only to read currently bitmaps, BMP, .bmp format. Okay, you could save it as step, like what I normally do. Save it as step underscore 01. So it's easy for me to remember, and it actually coincides with the BGInfo.bgi configuration file, right? So once you save it as that, right, and you have your picture, now the only thing we have to worry about is the screen resolution for for your deployment. And I've noticed many times that if the screen resolution is a little bit off, then it's not going to work, right? Like if you take a look at this real quick, I'll show you. This is my image, step 01. Step 01 matches up. Okay, so all right, so 01 matches up with step 001. This is a BGI configuration file, and this is the image that it will be pulling, right? If you do, if I look at the properties of this file, if you could see right here, I open it with Paint. It will tell you the resolution of this folder, of this picture, excuse me. Um, if your resolution is not like at least 800 by 600 or 1024 by 768 or something that is default for the screen size, for instance, if you have 17 inches or 15 inches screen, you want to make sure that you use a good resolution for your background. Don't use anything crazy if you have like those big wide screens, because not every background is going to work on every computer. So 800 by 600, it will work. And almost on every computer, even the older models, that's like your best pick. If you have like newer model computers, you could try with 1024 by 768. And there are a few others, but I've tested it, and the best one that works so far with all the machines for me was the resolution of 1024 times 1024 by 768 for resolution, and that's the picture size that you want it to be. You don't want it to be too large or too small. If it's too small, it's going to look really crappy. And if it's too large, it might stretch all the way, or BGInfo won't pull it at all. You're going to be wondering why it's not pulling. That's one of the issues I've noticed. The background, it don't match the screen, so BGInfo don't pull it at all. And there's no troubleshooting step for it. You just got to figure it out, like, what am I doing wrong? So earlier, if you notice that we saved our file, right? But you're probably wondering, how do we change the image, right, so that it can match? Well, it's real simple. There's this program, actually a software company, a free one online. It's called PicResize.com. If you go to this website, right, no matter what the size of the image is, it will allow you to change, you know, the size. You could do it also in Microsoft Office viewer, the picture viewer, and it will let you too. But sometimes it will try to adjust it exactly to match the screen, and it might not be what you want. So right now we're trying to get 1024 by 768. You click browse, go on your computer. Like for instance, this is a desktop. We open this file, and you could do this for all the files. I'm not gonna walk you through all of them. Just show you one, and then you could do all of them. So this is the background that we're gonna use. For instance, right? Remember earlier I showed you just how to configure it, whatever. So here you can make your picture 50%, 75%, whatever. If you look at the width by the height, it will tell you cropped. This is the original 1280 by 800. By default, you're gonna run into pain if you ever try just to deploy that with BGInfo. You might have some issues on some computer resolution. So the good thing I like about it, right? If you say fit 1024 resolution, bam, it will go ahead and automatically do it. You can do it also fit 800 resolution, and it will work. Okay, or you could customize it and do, like, for me, I like the 1024 by 768, right? Click outside and it will show you. So even though this says fit 1024, you notice you go to 640. Some screens like the 17-inch or the 19-inch are a little bit taller, and you might get, like, a weird background. So I set mine custom to 1024 by 768. You can also do the 800 default, and it will work. So you set this free. Go online, find it. When you're ready, click I'm done. Resize your picture, and it will say your image is successfully resized. Right after 20 minutes, they cleaned off their servers, so you have about 20 minutes to download it. So just come right here, save the disk. Right, open it up. You'll see it right here. Now, if you open it, there you go. It's automatically resized to 1024 by 768. Right, and then you want to save this file into the location where BGInfo is going to be for your wallpaper. Make sense? So that's how I did it and got my backgrounds to work. And, I mean, there's other ways. There's other customizing tools out there, other websites that do the same thing. This is just how I did it, and it's easier. If there's other ways that you have done it, then please share it. We all can benefit. Okay, so for instance, we already configured all our wallpapers. We got 6 inside here, and we configured each separate BGInfo configuration to pull these wallpaper. So guess what? Our wallpaper is set. BGInfo configuration files are set. Good. But now we're not done. All of this is good to go. But there's a few more things we got to get done. So let's go back to our MDT. Right? And we need to do some configurations on this. So, all right, so I'm back on the MDT, and you got WDS over here running and stuff. So what I need to do now, I need to open up my deployment workbench. Okay, and take a look right here. My deployment workbench, we were working in the black belt. Okay, okay, maybe that's a little bit better. You can see. All right, so black belt is where we're working. That's my workbench, and I need to go inside of my deployment workbench, my deployment share properties, and configure the settings. So the first background that we want to pull is the very first background that you want to see when you start up your image for deployment. So with BGInfo, get a background. Like I said, I normally do 6. The first one is the very first default background that you will see, right? Then you have 4 backgrounds in the middle going throughout the task sequence, and then you have the final background, which once the image is complete. So 4 beginning and the end, 6 backgrounds, everything works, good to go. So this is the first background that you want to deploy. You want to go into Tools, x86, this is where we saved it, and I normally name it background so I don't mix it up with these. So Step 6 is the last background. Background is the first one. Step 6 is last, and then you have, you know, your sequence in between your four, however. So select background. It's gonna give you the path for the deployment share, which is fine. Don't mess with it. Just select the background. Make sure it's a .bmp file, and everything is good to go. Click OK. All right. So that's the first background is set. Now, in order to set the rest of the background for BGInfo, you got to do this inside of your task sequence. So go inside our task sequence, right? And inside here is where we create all the magic. Now, you want to get your BGInfo to pull the information. So the first one, I know I'm going to create right under initialization. I go add general, and you want to run a command line. Okay, and that's what you're going to add. Now, in the command line, once you create it, it's going to be a command line right there. Name, you can name it whatever. I normally say BGInfo step 1, start validation. So that's pretty much just the name of it. And actually, once you start deploying BGInfo, you will see this at the bottom running. It's going to say now processing step 1, start validation, right? Then you have to give it a command line. Remember earlier I was telling you that once you start, you can do the percentage, deploy, root, and then tools x86 BGInfo to call it. That didn't work for me. What actually worked is when I give it the full path. When I gave it the full path of the network for the BGInfo.exe, right? And then I also had to call same network, the step 1.bgi, which is the BGI configuration file. And then I want to say no license prompt, silent, timer 0. So there is a space in between all of this. So your network share, there shouldn't be any spaces. And if you have any, you could have problems too. So I would suggest make sure that you name everything without space. Use underscore, use dash, stay away from the spaces. So the beginning, BGInfo, the full path for your network for BGInfo. And make sure it's in a share folder, which it should be once it's in the deployment share. Right there, between there and the next one is a space, okay? And if you need an example of this, just let me know. I could write it down for you. And then the full path of the BGI, right there, space, no license prompt, one word, space, silent, don't forget your / space timer, okay? Once you do that, you click apply, and you will have the first BGInfo configuration. Now we need 6 different steps, right? So instead of doing this all the time, all you have to do is click it, copy the this file right here, and paste it, and then it's real simple. So copy, paste, and then you just go to move down and move it down. And then, so we copied, so we paste. This will be step 2. Step 2 is where I apply my scripts. If you notice, copy scripts right here. So I'm going to apply BGInfo background and its configuration file before the actual task sequence, right? So same thing with step 3, install drivers. My drivers background is going to come right here before I start installing drivers. Install Windows, the same thing. Install operating system, I make sure it's right there before I install Windows. And then install applications, your software, whatever. If you look right here, that's when it's going to install applications. So I put the BGInfo to install applications background above it. And then the final stage, right before the imaging, I go ahead and I say image complete, which means that the image is complete and BGInfo, not BGInfo, the deployment is complete and my image is made. Remember, once you copy and paste, you have to change few things in here. Don't forget, or else you're gonna have the same background. You rename them, right? So BGInfo 06, make sure it's not 01 all the way down. Step 06 if you want to do that. And then you're gonna call step 0 right there. You want to call that step 06. Okay? And inside of step 06, one of the number one reason why there is different wallpaper, each configuration file is pulling a separate wallpaper. So if you just configure BGInfo to pull one wallpaper throughout the whole process, then you won't need to change this. You could set it to just one, and it will pull one wallpaper throughout the whole process. But if you have sequence going through that you want to say start computer, inject drivers, install operating system. Now we're going to do post drivers, Windows updates, whatever it is that you want to do, right? You have to configure each configuration file to do that, along with the backpaper, the wallpaper, right? So you have configured everything for your BGInfo to work in your task sequence. You click apply, click OK, and it's good to go. Inside your deployment share, right, you would want to update. Once you're complete, everything is good to go, right? You could go ahead and update your deployment share, and you need to because you just made changes, and if you want it to be seen, you need to go ahead and update this. Once that's updated, we're going to go over here to our Windows deployment services and add boot image. So you want to go to the deployment share. It's going to be inside your boot folder. And go ahead and add your boot image that we just configured with all the changes in your deployment workbench to your WDS server. For some reason, I've always noticed this. It starts and it goes all the way. And then it seems like it sits there at 99.99% for like 30 seconds before the finish comes up. See? It's kind of weird. All right, so our light touch is ready to be sent out, right? We configured everything, so we're going to go back to our DC where we have our virtual machine set up on, right? And now we had this prepped earlier, right? So now let's do a test to see how everything is working. So just to go back over, we did the wallpaper. You need 6. I like to do 6. 1 at the beginning, right? And go ahead and start that. 1 at the end. And then you want to configure the 4 in between. Do your task sequence. Update the task sequence. Update the Windows deployment services. Save it. Put everything into one folder. Make sure it's shared. And then let's test to see how we did. And this is how it looks normally now with 2012 MDT. It looks like the platform. So there you go. That's the first wallpaper, right? And that's the default background that we have MDT pulling. So that's the wallpaper that you'll see every time you boot up. Now it's going to ask me for my deployment, my task sequence. So click next. I have this set to choose my applications, how I configured it. Click next. Now, if you look down at the bottom, you see that? Now, computer name, you see how everything is going through? So that means it's working. So this is how I configure my background, and pretty much it's applying my scripts. BGInfo is being displayed down here. It's showing you my MAC address, IP, the NIC card. Virtual machine is a model. Manufacturer is by Microsoft since it's a Hyper-V, and the computer name that it automatically gives the computer. Okay, so before you go, I want us to watch it until we get to install the operating system. And this is just pretty much the task sequence. You could customize it however you want. Now you see it's injecting the drivers based on the model. It's copying it. Now it's installing the operating system. There you go. This phase will normally take about 5-10 minutes. However, depends on how big your deployment is. And there you go, guys. So pretty much, this is how we configure BGInfo to actually pull the information, right? And now it should be good for you to go ahead and start customizing how you want everything. Okay, so thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.